everyone.
Welcome to the Let's Talk About It podcast, where we explore the theme on how performative arts and fine arts can prevent gun violence. I'm your host, Mia.
And I'm your co-host, Chas.
And I'm your other co-host, Kilea.
So, let's talk about it. Okay, you guys, opening up the floor today, I have a question. So if you could live in anybody's shoes for a day, who would it be? They could be famous, they could be, anything.
Honestly, I don't really know. I'm going to have to think about it for a minute. I think I would go with Bretman Rock. Bretman Rock. All the way.
Ooh, that's a cool little life.
Bretman Rock. Have you seen where he lives?
I've seen
his
where he
view.
Lives. The view, you got a little bit of money, you can do what
I feel like anybody who's like, I don't know, I want to experience a different life besides mine. So I feel like anybody like Zendaya or somebody like that.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But I think I would pick, I don't want to pick anybody with kids because then I'm just watching kids all day. So, but I want to pick somebody who's rich just because, I don't know. So I think I would go with, I don't know who I would go with. So I'm just going to shut that question down because that's a little too hard for even me to answer. So we just watched a podcast on the intersection of art and gun violence, a survival story about Warren Hynson, who was wrongfully, it was a law, but he was incarcerated for 28 years. So any thoughts on that story in general?
I feel like he didn't have a lot to say to it because, when it did happen, he was shot. He did get hurt. And the fact that he got arrested right after he, out the hospital, it was a law, but I feel like they still should, ask some questions about it and at least heard his side of the story. Stuff like that.
As strict as he made them sound, like the law and stuff, how he had to, how he caught the charge just because he was with the robber. I'm not even gonna lie. I think maybe not the fairest, but I'm not gonna disagree with that law, just because. I get that he said he had a rough time going to school just because he felt like an outsider, but what's it called? Doing the wrong things with the wrong crowd. That's obviously gonna lead you down a bad path.
And if you have to take with doing that.
Yeah, and if that law wasn't there, who knows where he would be right now? He probably wouldn't have found. He probably wouldn't have gotten back to painting. He probably would have stayed in the streets. So, I feel like, honestly, as strict as... Where were they at?
Maryland? Or Virginia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Virginia. As strict as their law sounds, I feel like it honestly is fair. Just because he didn't pull the trigger, that was still your partner in crime.
That's true.
Sir, you were going to jail anyways.
Yeah.
So to add on to that, I also kind of agree with that because when that happened, because I feel like, I actually 100% agree with you. Now listening to you makes me think about it differently. Because if you think about it, he met that person when he got into that art stuff in jail. I feel like if he didn't have that time, he did say he had a teacher who helped him, who back then, but I feel like since he went down that path, since he felt, not fit in, I wonder, how do you guys think his life would be differently from him not being, if he didn't go to jail and serve the consequences that he did because he committed that crime? Do y'all think he would just still be rolling around with the people, or do you guys think he'll, after he got shot, that'll hit him differently?
That's a good question.
Let me low-key bump in and say, I honestly think, not to sound judgy and all, but I honestly think he would have stayed with that crowd just because he did say, when he moved to Virginia, or yeah, from Maryland, um, what's it called? He had a hard time fitting in with, not only with just his classmates, but with his own ethnic people, with the other Filipinos. They were, I think he said he was too country for them.
Yeah.
Which, honestly felt that, because I feel like, a lot of people have different personalities to them. It's not just one person, one personality. No, you got a lot of things to make up who you are. But just feeling like an outsider, even with people who are from the same, who come from the same background, who come from the same culture as you, it low-key does hit you. And the fact that the only people that I guess made him feel welcomed enough to, like, bring him around constantly enough to, like, really get in with the group. The only people that made him feel welcome were the people on the streets, the people who were making bad choices, the people who he ended up being partners in crimes with. So I do feel like he would have stayed in the streets, to be honest.
I agree with that. I feel like, for one, like, I feel like the reason he even got into that was he didn't have that sense of community, and that being in that environment and in that lifestyle, you get to roll around with those people. That's your community now, as well as, like, it was opportunity, and, like, you could also make a little cash. He was trying to hit a lick. That was his opportunity. But I feel like even, like, him being in jail and seeing all the guys' gallery in his jail cell, that was opportunity, because even from there he found a clean way to make some money. He was sending money to his family while he was in jail.
I was like, good for you.
Yeah.
Imagine sending money from jail.
Yeah, that was, that kind of that shocked me. But I feel like that was positive art.
Yes.
And how that kind of,
yeah, it really shows how fine arts can really help stay away from gun violence and stuff.
right.
Like, maybe gun violence did bring him in, but eventually when he was in jail, he found a way to kind of get back up the next day, to make more money the next day, to help his family the next day. And then even once he was out of jail, that's his way of making money again. So, props to him. He's changed his life around. I could assume he's not really hanging out with the same people anymore.
Right.
So.
I feel like a lot of people would argue that the art kind of has no effect on any type of prevention. So I know that when I was in theology class this year, a topic that was brought up is how, like, when mass shootings happen, or even any type of shooting, gun violence incident, there's a lot of state-funded memorial things that go up, and a lot of people are kind of, like, upset because that money could be put into prevention things to stop it from happening. So, like, do you think that the murals and the memorials are effective, or you think that the money could be put somewhere else?
I do feel like the money could be put somewhere else, but then again, those murals are to help consolidate the families, friends, loved ones, and it's just also just to kind of remember, just to remember that, a person died here. This is where my loved one passed away. But I do understand how we should come up with, a way to kind of distract the younger generation from hanging out with the wrong crowd. We could bring up maybe something, because although there are sports and, like band practice after school, maybe choir, maybe you have an after school program. What's it called? Sometimes, I'm not even gonna lie, kids are skipping a lot of these activities after school, which kind of makes you question, why are they skipping? Where, like, is their motivation gone? What's going on? Is it something at home? Is it something at school? Never really know.
What do you think, Key? Do you think that the money could be directed towards a prevention kind of thing, or do you think it should be used to,
I feel like it comes to certain extents. So if you think about it, if so, with like gun violence, I feel like a part of a gang, people destroy those type of like memorials. They don't really take care of it, or like I feel like yeah, the family can remember them in a certain way, but if you think about it, there's hatred between those people, gun violence towards a person who passed away. It rains a lot out here. They get all destroyed, but I feel like you could put some thought in it in doing that, but also I feel like you could put money to like a better, maybe like a better, how should I say this? Like, not a better use because, the memorials there, that's how some people, everybody grieves differently. So I feel like some people go to people's memorial every day, do that, whatever they do with that. But I also feel like some of the money that they put up to that can also be put in other different programs, like just stuff, or even just anything, like, just other things other than spending it all on that. Because, there's also, think about their tombstone, we can put stuff up there and all that. But yeah, that's how I basically feel about all of it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I like that. How you said how the money could be put into kind of more towards the prevention side, because I feel like that's really effective. And I think that there are also cheaper alternatives, which sounds bad because you don't want to cheap out on somebody memorial. Like, obviously, so
You're gonna pay your respect.
yeah, pay your respects. Do something nice, but art and making mass forms of art like that is expensive. So like, what could be a cheaper alternative for that? Like, any like ideas?
I just feel like just different other organizations, programs, other stuff that can help the kids. Cause I don't want to say it like this or put it as a negative way, but I feel like a lot of the I'm not gonna say a lot, but like a 50 out of 50% chance is that most of the memorials that you see around, like, places are mainly from gun violence, or they're from people who go through that. And I feel like, you know, just preventing from that happening, just putting money up towards different programs and organizations, therefore, so people won't have to die. You won't have to see those memorials everywhere. Like, every on a lot of places you go, you see a memorial. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I just feel like you can put it up to better stuff. Not saying the memorials aren't good, but
I know this sounds bad.
But yeah, just
We could, so like how we set up B-Town Kids in the Ville for the kids in that neighborhood and around that neighborhood. We could set something up maybe during the school year instead of just summer. Because I feel like, even though there are all these after school activities, sports, arts, whatever it is, whichever, whereas theater, sports, choir, band, I feel like people still find a lot of not just free time, but just enough time to kind of sneak away and really just go with their bad decisions. But there are other cheaper ways, such as music. People create music to kind of speak about what's going on, what's hurting their community, them, or their family,
I think that's a great point. Like, okay, I have a prime example. Okay, See You Again. I don't know. When I see...
Oh.
Okay, we all know that song was... what was his name? It was Chad something. No,
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker. So we all know that. So I get my white boys mixed up. Anyway, that song was basically like, you know, that was kind of like a
memorial
exactly
to him.
and
Yeah.
that, you know, that could be a cheaper alternative to that. And so because we all know that music has such a big influence, so that song is a prime example of how you can, because they didn't build him no $60,000 statue now. No. So like, so what kind of artists have what do their influences promote? Is it negativity or positivity? Like, so what are some artists that you could think about on the top of your head?
So far lately, we've got Kendrick and Drake. You know, they're going at a little beef. I would say Kendrick's on the positive side, kind of exposing Drake.
Yeah, that.
Of all his nasties. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Drake for the negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like some people who've had made positive, I feel like, well, for example, like Beyonce has made some positive like songs about people passing away, or just like, you know, songs, stuff like that. I feel like a negative. I feel like a lot of rappers, mainly the male mainly the male rappers like King Von, you know, Lil Durk. I feel like those a lot of people who, okay, I'm not gonna lie, Lil Durk has some good songs like All My Life. He speaks some good stuff in that, and you know other songs. But I feel like there's some of his songs, he have been, you know, a little overboard with the way he talks and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like those are two like positive and negative rappers, singers.
So yeah, I feel like that's important when we're comparing any two artists. Like let's just say Olivia Rodrigo. Give me a pop artist. Give me something pop.
I don't.
Britney Spears, Ariana Grande.
Oh, okay, Ariana Grande. Okay. Ooh.
She's a little controversial.
Yeah,
right now,
she's a little controversial. Okay, let's just scrap her and let's go with the basic Taylor Swift. That's all I know. I'm sorry. So, boom, Taylor Swift. So we can talk about what kind of behavior does she promote, and like also because people do look up to artists, what kind of behavior does she validate in that? So Taylor Swift, you know, you can I'm not a Swiftie, but I know some stuff about Taylor Swift. So she'll write songs about, you know, her exes and like how they did her dirty. People can relate to that.
That if guys don't want me to write bad songs about them, then they shouldn't do bad things.
And she validates those feelings in her listeners. And so, what feelings is King Von validating in people?
Negative. They're not they're negative, hyping people up. I feel like, so the thing with the negative music, I feel like that hypes people up to do wrong things, and it also gives the benefit of the doubt of thinking they can do something, knowing that they're not. They're not really mentally ready for it, but you know they still, you know, they make money, whatever. But I feel like it's.
I feel like the other artists in King Von's category.
Yeah.
I feel like they're, you know, kind of taking advantage of Ice Cube's, what Ice Cube said in this one interview where he was being interviewed about some of his old, some of his old songs, raps, how a lot of the lyrics, like, they were very controversial, especially in that era, in that time. He had a lot of songs kind of expressing not just gun violence, but a lot of different types of violence it was basically just him telling the outside world, like people who don't live in his neighborhood, or, you know, he just kind of wanted to tell people this is what's going on, but nobody in the world is showing it on the news. And I wanted to show you guys that this is what's happening because there's nobody else talking about it. Rappers nowadays, they're just kind of taking advantage of him saying that in that interview, And nowadays they're just rapping about, they're basically bragging about killing people or shooting people. They're bragging about drive-bys they've done, how much drugs they've sold or took, even how many girls they've gotten pregnant. So I'm just like, is this really who you want to look up to?
Right. So these aren't really positive role models. And I feel like
I know.
the industry that, is right now kind of took advantage of, like, yes, you can talk about your life, and that's great, and exposing these and bringing exposure to situations and things.
But it comes to a consent where you don't have to overshare everything, because that's where young people get influenced by stuff, that the wrong things that shouldn't be getting influenced by.
Exactly. So kind of just exposing and somewhat tainting young minds, which is like, you're putting it out there. Everybody can hear it. There's nothing positive about any of these messages. So even for a grown person to be listening to this, is like, it's the same thing. It's just not.
One another thing about these rappers, they keep doing it because they get the fame from it, they get their money from it, because people are entertaining it. That's why they just think it's okay and keep doing it. Because a lot of young people like that. Like if you go up to like any like older person, they hear that, they don't condone that. Like, they don't like that. Like, my grandma hears that stuff, she'll like, turn that stuff off. I just feel like it's for the generation now, the generation before us. I feel like the more the generation gets, it just gets worse and worse with music, just everything that people think that's okay. And it's
okay. I have a great point with this, or I have a little question to bring up for you guys. So in I love to talk about school, even though I don't even like school like that. So I'm sorry. But in my English class, we read this article on how, like, love stories and, like, love music is not the same anymore. Like, it took a drastic turn from, like, it went from the cliche of, like, oh, your eyes are so beautiful, I could look at them all day, to a whole bunch of explicit stuff and even stuff like that. So it's, like, how they kind of put, like, a negative spin on a art that could possibly bring light or exposure to a situation to inform people, but they kind of took it as, oh, I'm gonna get on here and start talking about everything I didn't deal with it. Like, no. So do you think that in terms of like love music, do you think that took a turn for the worst?
I
yeah, I can agree with that. Maybe not all genres are taking a turn for the worst, but definitely I definitely do see the change. I remember a lot of songs growing up, like, they would actually, like, talk about, like, her hair.
Sweet stuff.
Yeah, like,
when I see
Bruno Mars.
That's what I was thinking.
So,
yeah, that.
like, when you think of love songs back in the day, for our generation.
Back in the day.
Our generation, I'm thinking Bruno Mars. Like, even if it's some, sad love song, like I'm thinking of Adele, even Taylor Swift, maybe some Selena Gomez, like,
okay,
but what's it called, nowadays I feel like there's not really much love songs, there's more sad and bad songs. So
I can agree. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too. I feel like it's just different, like from rap, like from singers now. Back then, there was like Keisha Cole, Trina, all them girls. I still listen to them today. But like, I just feel like listening to that and compared to like music nowadays, I just feel like listening to that, you can like really vibe with that. But nowadays, I just feel like, I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel like I can definitely more vibe with the like music before my generation right now.
Yeah. So I feel like an important takeaway from our talk would be, what are you listening to? What are you allowing people in your life to listen to? Not that you can control anybody.
Yeah.
But what do you what are you allowing into your ears, and what kind of behavior does that, excuse, promote, give the okay stamp to?
I'd also like to add that I hope you guys are aware of who you guys, look up to, not just as a celebrity, but, or not just as your superhero, but just in general.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Be influenced by the right people. Look for some good role models in your life, and
Yeah. So if you're gonna take anything away from that long talk, it should be those 2 points.
Yeah.
Thank you for talking about it with Mia,
Chasidy,
and Keila.
Bye.
Bye.